Hi everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel. In my previous video, I shared with you on how to draft the pattern for this overbust corset. In today's video, we'll be finishing it up. Without wasting much time, let's quickly go over to the sewing machine. I've already ironed stay on the main fabrics, both on the front piece and on the back piece. I also ironed wadding on the lining, the bust parts of the lining, the center front and the side front. What you're going to do next is to bring the center front and the side front, open up and place them right side facing each other. Then you can go ahead and pin it up from the down part to the upper part. You already know that the essence of pinning this up is to make the fabric stay put while sewing, so you don't have to be shifting or giving you troubles when you're sewing. When I was done with one side, I went ahead to pin the other side. Then after that, I also did the same thing on the lining piece. What I did next was to mark ½ inch on that part that I already pinned down. I marked ½ inch from the hem to the upper part. I did the same thing on the both sides. Then after that, I went ahead to sew, making sure I followed the ½ inch line. After joining the center front and the middle front, this is what I have. I also joined the lining. As you can see, the bust part is already popping out. So the next thing is to join the side front. So here is my side front. What I did next was to open it up and place it right side facing each other, just like we did earlier. Then I used my pin to secure it down. After that, I marked the ½ inch sewing allowance on the both sides. I also did the same thing on the lining. This is what we have after joining the front piece and also the lining of the front piece. Next is to go ahead and join the back pattern to the front piece. What I did was to bring the side back, opened it up, then I placed it on the side front, making sure that the waistline of the side front and the side back is aligning. Then I secured it with a pin. As a fashion designer, pin is supposed to be your best friend. So I pinned it down from the hemline to the upper part as usual. Then I did the same thing on the other side as well. After that, with my tape, I measured the 1 inch. While I was drafting the pattern, I added 1 inch seam allowance. So I measured the 1 inch. I did the same thing on the two sides. Then I went ahead to sew on the line. So this is what I have after joining the sides. Next is to bring in the middle back and join it to the side back. You have to do this on the two sides. You secure it down with your pin as usual and use ½ inch to sew it down. After that, you bring in your center back and join it to the side back using ½ inch, and make sure to make a notch to know the upper part and the down part, because it can get confusing sometimes, so you have to be careful. This is what I have after joining all the pieces together. I also went ahead to open press the seam. I did the same thing on the lining also. I ironed everything flat. It's also very important to use the bust ham whenever you're ironing the bust parts. This will help to give the bust area a very good shape. You can buy the bust ham from the market, or you can create yours with pieces of fabrics and a paper tape. So the next thing is to create a style line for the boning channel. What I did was to fold my fabric into two, then I made a mark on the down part and on the upper part to get the midpoint. After then, I opened it up and used my ruler to connect the lines. From that center line, I marked 2 inches. I did the same thing on the other side. Then from there, I connected a line from that point to the down part, ½ inch away from the middle line on the down part. Then I also extended it to the top. So for these style lines, I'll be making use of black bias and a rigid line boning. I'll be sewing them on those lines I created now and also on the seam lines. Here is my bias tape and my rigid line boning. What I did next was to open up the bias tape and sew ½ inch away from the top before attaching the rigid line boning. Then I will sew all the way down, leaving ½ inch before the hemline.
I see the moon, I see the moon, I see the moon. Oh, when you're looking at the sun.
This is what I was explaining earlier. I did not start joining the boning from the top to the hemline. I left ½ inch space at the hemline and also ½ inch space at the top. After that, I flipped it over like so, then sew it all the way down.
I see the moon, I see the moon, I see the moon. Oh, when you're looking at the sun. You're not a fool, not a fool, not a fool. No, you're not fooling anyone.
So this is it after sewing. This is what it looks like. Now I'll be going off camera to sew the remaining, then I'll come back and show you guys. Here I've gone ahead to sew on all the channels except on the center back. In some cases, the boning might actually pass across the seam line of the center back. So in this case, you will have to mark out your boning channel and where you will fix your eyelets before sewing on them. So here I first of all measured 1/4 inch or 0.3. This will be for the turn up. Then from that line I measured another ½ inch. This ½ inch will be where I'll be passing the plastic boning. So from that ½ inch I measured another 3/4 inch or 0.8. This is where I'll be fixing the eyelets. When I was done marking, I extended the lines to the hem. Then I added another rigid line and bias after the stud line. So here is it after adding the boning. As you can see, what is remaining now is the space for the eyelets and also the ½ inch for the plastic boning. What I did next was to go ahead and iron it out, and as I was ironing it, I made sure to bend the underbust this way. I bent it this way so as to have that curve effect on the bust part. I also used my bust ham to iron the bust area as well. So when I was done, this is what I have. Next thing I did was to bring my lining piece and create a boning channel for the bust gauging. I went ahead to mark the center of the lining. When I was done marking out the center, I measured like 2½ inch on the both sides of the center line. I will be adding rigid line boning to all of those lines I'm creating. So I marked ½ inch on the upper side. Then getting to the side, I came in by 1 inch, then I connected. I had issues with my phone when I was videoing this part. The phone keeps misbehaving, so I marked the lines offline. But you can pay close attention to the lines. You can even add more lines if you want, especially if the person you are sewing for is busty. This is what I have after sewing the boning on the lines. I was supposed to add another boning across the bust point from one side to the other side, but I forgot because of the issues my phone was giving me while filming. So when you're making your own, do well to add boning across the bust point. You can also add below the bust point if you wish. Then you may also want to add boning on the seam lines like this. But me, I did not add to mine. It's a matter of choice. The next thing you will do is to bring in your hemming gum to cover up the caging you've already created. You are going to place the hemming gum this way from one side to the other side until it covers up the bust caging. So after doing all of that, you bring your fiber, place it on it and iron it out. But if you don't have fiber, you can use wadding or multiple layers of hairstay. So me, I don't have fiber at that moment, so I used my wadding. The essence of attaching fiber or wadding to the bust cage is to give it those fleshy effects when you're putting it on. Next thing you're going to do is to turn it up. I place the main fabric on the lining, right side facing each other. Then I make sure that the seam lines on the main fabric and that of the lining piece is aligning. After that, I use my pin to secure it down. Then I'm going to sew from one end all the way to the other end. When I was done sewing the upper part, I did the same thing on the hem. I secured the hem with my pin, making sure that all the seam lines are aligning and also the bohemian curve at the hem. You remember the curve I made while I was drafting the pattern? Yes, I made sure that the curve on the main fabric is aligning with the one on the lining. Then after pinning it down, I went ahead to stitch on it using 1/2 inch all around. What I did next after sewing the hem is to notch it. I notched it from one end to the other end, and you have to be very careful not to cut open the seam and also trim out the excesses if there is any. Next is to close up the sides. I know you'll be wondering, how are we going to turn it out if we are to close up the sides? We will see how that is being achieved. When I was done closing up one side, I moved over to the other side. I stitched from the hem to about 2 inches. Then I stopped there and raised my presser foot, leaving about 4 inches gap. Then continued my sewing all the way up. So this is it. I closed up one end, as you can see. Then on the other side, I left like 4 inches space. So that is where I'm going to turn it up from. As you are turning it up, you have to be careful not to overpress the boning. It could be tricky, but you have to be patient. So this is what I have after turning it inside out. What you do next is to fold in the opening this way. After folding it in, you will now go ahead and stitch on it. You stitch on the edge. Next is to create a boning channel for the plastic boning. So what I did was to mark 1/2 inch from the top to the bottom. Then after that, I ran a stitch on that line. Here is my plastic boning. I went ahead to measure it up, leaving 1/2 inch space on the hem. Then I used my lighter to smoothen up the 2 sides of the plastic boning. When I was done with that, I dropped it aside. I then picked up my razor and opened up the hem a bit. I opened the part that the plastic boning will be passing through. I opened it up a bit to enable the plastic boning to pass through. After that, I now picked up my boning and passed it through the channel. When I was done, I stitched back the hem. That place I opened, I stitched it back. I did the same thing on the other side, and that was it. This is the back of the corset. I've already gone ahead to fix eyelets on it. Also, this is the front. We've come to the end of this particular project. So if you found this video helpful, please like, comment, and also share. If you haven't subscribed yet to my channel, please kindly do so, and don't forget to hit the notification button so as to get notified whenever I post new videos. See you guys in my next class. Bye.